Welcome to Minutes by Minutes. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we're here to talk about what goes on in the village, the township. You know, those government people that make laws and regulations that affect you out there.
That's right, Elgin. And whether you live in the village of Oxford, the village of Leonard, Oxford Township, or Addison Township, these are the people that you elected, and the committees and the commissions that make decisions that directly affect you, whether you chose to go to that meeting or not. And that's why we're here.
Right. And to spread rumors.
Oh, love rumors.
Right. And of course, you'll find that humor buried or bubbling to the top.
And you'll find that rumors and humor often go together.
Right. And if you don't attend the meetings, as he's indicated, expect the humor to come back and get you. Okay, because it could very well do that. You could catch a lot of these meetings, of course, on OCCTV.org.
That's right.
On our website.
Just click on programs, and there you are. Everything's in reverse date order. You can pick and choose.
America is a wonderful place.
Or you can go on YouTube and pretty much see the same thing.
You could do that, yes, if you want to. You could. You should.
You could.
Right. Okay, let's talk about a couple of meetings, shall we, that came up last week.
Yes.
Well, yes. Oxford Village Council meeting. It was rather a lively session.
I hear that was a torches and pitchfork meeting.
For some people it was.
I see.
And also
wasn't a short meeting, was it?
It wasn't a short one. It ran for about 3 hours, as a matter of fact. But we'll get back to that one in just a second. The other one we want to try to cover is the Oxford Township Board of Trustees meeting. And if we have time, we'll hit the village DDA meeting. I don't know if we can do that because both of these
have a full plate.
sessions. You do. You have a serving yourself. Okay, so let's get on with the Oxford Village Council meeting. And that was January 10th. Sue Bassarded is the chairperson. And of course, Dave Bailey now sits on that board, as well as Eric Dolan and Maureen Helmuth, and one more, Tom Kennis.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they began with a prayer, which is a good thing for this meeting. Okay. And then they did the pledge.
Wing and a prayer.
Yeah, a wing and a prayer. Then they did the Pledge of Allegiance, which is another good thing. That means you're all unified. And leading that group was Troop 366 of the Boy Scouts, which they were present during this meeting. So they filled up a pretty good sized portion of the room along with their parents. And
always good for the youth to see how government works.
It is. And to talk about how government works, actually down the line we'll talk about that, where a young man was actually placed on this board in an honorary position, for a meeting. Okay, so the agenda, there were changes to be made to the agenda, and Sue Bassarded requested those amendments. The amendments were approved, and so the changes were made. Presentation by Eric Dolan, and this is where it comes in. A proclamation was made by Eric Dolan for a sophomore at Oxford High School. His name is Gibson Underwood. A really nice young man. And his background in the high school, he's a 4-point student. I believe he's a sophomore now. 4-point student last year. He plays the violin. Very talented there. He is working towards his Eagle Scout. I mean, I could go on and on about this young man.
Guy's got a resume already.
Yeah, right. But he has this one issue that has been plaguing he and his family, and that is he has leukemia. And so he's being treated for that, and even with that, he has a great outlook on things.
Super.
And nice young man. He was given the proclamation and seated on the board to observe and take part, if he wanted to, in this village council as a non-voting member.
But he could still contribute his opinion.
He could have if he wanted to, but he's a pretty good listener, this guy. And his parents, of course,
always good for the first day.
Right, always good for the first day. And his parents were there, of course, and with pride, as they should be.
Excellent.
Nice young man.
Excellent.
So anyway, good presentation by Eric Dolan. And everybody gave a standing ovation, when it was presented. So really nice. That went on to interview for a position with the DDA board. That would be me. So I requested the village council to place me on the DDA board, which is a formality.
And, should I take a note?
You're right. There weren't too many forks and fires and pitchforks or anything like that going on. So it worked out well.
Just people going.
I see you, yes. So anyway, it was approved. Thank goodness. I made it through another hoop. So the next issue that came up was public items not on the agenda. And everybody knows Brian Cloutier. He's
Yeah.
the director of the library.
Very sharp guy.
Oxford, yeah, very sharp. And he wanted to thank everyone for helping with the historical items that were provided for the newspaper. I don't know if you know, but for 2 centuries, there's an exhibit at the library that you can see.
Library's been there that long?
No, it's probably going to be there a lot longer than us. I got a feeling that might be. But anyway, so he wanted to just mention that various people provided exhibit materials, to it. And let me
It's
see.
amazing what people have, especially if they've lived in this area for a long time or their family has been here for a long time.
Well, this covers 200
Rustle around
years.
in the old attic and
Yeah.
whoa, look at this.
Right, it covers 200 years, so in printing. So I believe the Leader newspaper provided some equipment, that they use for printing purposes. I believe the Historical Museum provided other things and items.
Excellent.
It's a great exhibit. You might want to check it out at the Public Library in Oxford, off Pontiac Street.
Those were the days when
Those were
there
the
were
days.
jobs like
my
pipe
friend.
fitters.
yeah, there were. Okay, so you can learn all about the history there. Rose Bema brought up a concern that she had that consumers were complaining that trash wasn't being picked up at their locations. And when they contacted the village, they apparently told them that they had to contact the pickup service direct.
Is that Rizzo?
No,
it isn't.
No, it's not
lost
Rizzo.
that. It's someone else now.
It's another company.
Yeah, okay.
Take a note.
Got it.
There it goes, right on top of the yellow notes. It's about that high now.
Oh, that's right. It's color coded.
Right. One of these days we'll just cover the notes. We do that?
I just go.
We could. Yeah, right. Push them over and start over. Okay. So anyway, so she brought this to the attention of the council, and the council, of course, agreed that it should be the council, being they hired this pickup service, and not leave it to the residency to have to chase this down.
There should be like an ombudsman.
Right. And so ombudsman has been appointed, I guess. Ombudsman would probably be the village manager, Joe Young.
Is it ombudsman and budsman? I'm not sure.
Close enough. Anyway, depends on which country you're in, I guess.
I guess.
This country, budsman.
In Canada, ombudsman.
I got it. Okay. All right. And then they covered the bills, and they're $129,575.42 for bills. And that was quickly approved because, of course, they go over the agenda and the budgets and the bills before they enter this meeting. So they're all prepared.
Good.
Did it. And
No one challenged anything?
nobody challenged anything. Unfinished business, request for a part-time office help, which they brought up during the last meeting. I don't know if you recall that.
For whom?
For the village offices. There was an indication that one person was going to be leaving. I guess it proved to be false. That person wasn't leaving. And there were some other misunderstandings involved too. So anyway, so that actually a motion was made to suspend action in hiring until more information could be available. And I think Sue Passarda, the chair, led that charge. So that was approved that they sit on that one for a while until they have all the information. Good move, I think.
Yeah.
And talking about good moves, we're going to make one right now. We'll be back in just a moment.
See you then.
Welcome back to Minutes by Minutes. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kinney.
And we have been talking about the village council in Oxford and a number of things going on. And the big issue that came up was the next item that they talked about.
The elephant in the room.
The elephant in the room. And that was the Mounted Police Division. Did you know there was a mounted police division in Oxford Village?
No, I know there was one in Canada.
Well, guess what?
They called them, mounted.
Well, guess what? There isn't.
There wasn't and there isn't.
There wasn't and there isn't. But
Never
there
was one.
But there was a mirage of people that
I see.
indicated, or at least wore the dress uniform of the police officer riding horses. And actually, if you were a bystander, you would think that those were police officers. As it turned out, they were supposed to be reserved officers, and they were, in Lapeer as reserve officers, but not really sworn as reserve officers for Oxford Village. So, it really didn't fit it. And what's happened is that it's part of the equestrian team that has run competition and various ribbons and so forth in Kentucky and other areas, which is very prestigious, but under the certain guise that they were representing Oxford as a police force. Not a good thing, although that information was...
it wasn't a good thing, especially when the Oxford Council didn't know about it.
Right. Well, they kind of knew about it.
Oh, they did?
But it was presented during the public forum at another meeting.
Oh.
It wasn't presented as an item, which you have to do in order to get official approval.
Like an agenda item.
Right, agenda item. And Chief Niemanowski, he was questioned extensively. Talk about pitchforks and fire. The guy was roasted, beat up, spindled, and mutilated. And
They were tough on him.
yeah, and he handled it, I think, with good grace, the situation. But the fact of the matter was that the people that were doing this as police officers riding horses just never was approved. Now, the people that did this was Kelly Rossner Myers and her husband. And her sister as well, I think, which is
there was
from
three of them?
Metamora. There were three of them.
Oh, I didn't know there were three.
Right.
I thought there was only two.
And they were apparently set up with Oxford uniforms and those kind of things. And by the time the smoke cleared, the flames dissipated, the point was that they would not be authorized by the village council to represent themselves in such a way, for the village.
I see.
And however, there's a
Weren't they
issue.
under that guy's supposed to be in the inaugural parade?
Yes, they had a position, and there's actually very few in the state of Michigan. They were chosen for that, and I think part of the momentum that caused that to happen is because they were wearing police uniforms, that kind of thing.
So where does that stand now?
Well, they're still going to be in it because they won as an equestrian team also. So they will still participate, I believe, in the parade, and I think that's somewhat questionable, but
What will they be wearing?
they won't be wearing Oxford police uniforms. I can tell you that much.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and right after that, Mike Niemanowski
He's
came
the
up
police chief.
as a police chief, requested the ability to go to the parade because he was going to represent the Michigan Policemen Association in the state of Michigan, and he was going to carry the flag. And of course, he has been on the police force here for 17 years.
Oh,
He's
sure.
very well respected, and that's something that would have been authorized regardless of the other issue. So they did approve it. So you will see him in the parade if you watch closely. Right, that's Mike Niemanowski. So anyway, after all the flames went out and everything continued, and there was a lot of questioning involved, and one point that was well taken was by Tom Kinnis. He says they're not a reserve officer. They shouldn't be depicted as a reserve officer. If somebody on the street were to see these people, they would think they were officers, and could they act as officers? And the answer is no.
Yeah, I thought the attorney for Village of Oxford really summarized the whole thing very well,
Yeah,
too.
he did. Yeah. You remember what he said exactly?
Verbatim? No.
Yeah. No, not verbatim. I know you wouldn't. But he was well chosen in his words.
Yeah, basically, without, it was, with him, I believe it was a question of procedure. And the correct procedure would have been to present it as an agenda item to the council, and they would have taken appropriate action, possibly even bonding them if there was an accident or something like that.
Well, in defense of Callie,
I don't know if he said that exactly, but
yeah,
would
in
seem
somewhat
to
of a
follow.
defense of Callie, she thought that, just through association with the police chief and the village manager, that she was given the go-ahead to go on this thing. So it was a mistake in information. Chief Niemanowski apologized
It's
for
like
that.
Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah,
What we have here is a failure to communicate.
right. That's exactly what it is. And the point also was well taken, the fact that not just anybody can don that uniform, and represent themselves. You should call that's impersonating an officer.
Well,
And can't do that, shouldn't do that, and you will be chastised if you do that.
you
'cause
better
they
be
don't-
able to walk the walk as well as talk the talk.
Right, you can't be doing those kind of things willy-nilly. If everybody did that, we'd have issues. But again, the procedural thing and the control portion of it, and who authorizes what in the village, that stands alone with the village council. You
Right.
people elected them out there to protect your interest. This is just one area that they're protecting. Okay, so that being said, hopefully that smoke will clear and there will be sunny skies beyond this, right?
Right.
Okay. So they went on.
Let another beam of sunlight shine upon your notes.
Right. And this ran for quite a while. So
For
actually,
3 hours.
The meeting ran for 3 hours, yeah. Actually, this part of the meeting was probably about an hour and a half, something like that.
Oh.
Quite a long meeting.
commercials?
No commercials, no commercials. We didn't see you doing your little dance job, before the audience or anything. Missed that, by the way. Let me see what else. Let me see. Oakland Press, okay. They talked about this thing too, and how the Oakland Press provided information that they didn't agree with, according to the Myers.
Oh,
And they're going to submit a letter, by the way, from the attorney to cease and, resist, from doing this kind of thing as well. So just to make it a legal issue. Okay, presidential inauguration, we talked about that. And by the way, that's going to be the 20th, which would, when we're shooting this, would be tomorrow, right?
or when you're watching it, it
Or when you're
already
watching
happened.
it. They already happened, right. Okay, council appointments. They made a number of council appointments. Bill Dunn, of course, retired from the DDA board, and I was placed on that board. Let me see. Addison Township for Communications Commission is Lori Fisher. I believe, and Leonard is going to continue to be Shar Southerby, is
Right.
the notice that I had.
And for the township?
And for the township, it's going to be for the Communications Commission.
Ed Hunwick?
No, that would be, there's two people. There would be Bill Dunn on that board,
Yeah.
which he's a supervisor, and hopefully it'll be Ed Hunwick. But Ed has been asked to be on it, but he hasn't, I don't believe Bill Dunn has received confirmation yet that he's going to do it. But I got a feeling that he may very well do it,
But
because
does he have to be
I'd like to see
confirmed?
him do it. Huh?
Does he have to be confirmed?
No, Bill Dunn will decide, he's going to be on there. Right.
I appoint me.
He appoints.
I
Yeah.
appoint me.
It'll be probably approved by
I know.
it already has been approved
Okay.
by the township trustees
He's a
to
good
go
guy.
ahead with it.
He's a good guy.
Because Bill says, he'll do it. And so we went ahead and we did approve it, in that particular contention that he'll do it. Okay, well with that, we'll talk about the next meeting when we come back, right after this. Welcome back to Minutes by Minutes. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we've just been talking about the village council meeting, and now we're going to talk about the Oxford Board of Trustees meeting, which was held January 11th. Okay, and yours truly was there. Okay, now on this
Duly
board.
appointed trustee.
Right. And let me see.
Not appointed, elected.
No.
I'm sorry.
Supervisor Bill Dunn, okay, of course leads this charge. Clerk Curtis Wright, and of course Treasurer Joe Ferrari. And then you have Margaret Payne, you have Jack Curtis on that board, Margaret Durr, Patty Durr. I changed her name. I keep thinking of Margaret Payne for some reason.
AKA.
AKA. No, Patty Durr. As a matter of fact, she sits right next to me, and I'm the next guy in line. They did the Pledge of Allegiance. They, of course, approved the agenda and the consent agenda. Then they had public comment, and they had Brian Cloutier who spoke as the director of the public library, and he wanted people to know that there was a bill that was open. It's SB 619 and 624, which
Senate?
yeah, it's actually before the governor right now and has been signed, I believe. And what it does is it doesn't protect tax money from various groups, or it doesn't protect, I want to say it doesn't protect the library, for, in terms of collecting monies from various groups such as DDA and so forth.
Is that to say it removed protection?
It did remove protection.
Okay.
And however, anything in the past, it's not affecting. So if there are monies received, from the last,
Because that would be ex post facto.
that would be it. So anyway, so all he wanted to do is make sure that people out there understand that this has happened to the library. Doesn't mean that they're going to remove the funding for the library from the DDA or from any other organization, but it could happen to the fire department, could happen to other police department and so forth. So just to make the trustee board aware of it. So good point, Brian Cloutier. He said he was going to stay on top of this too and provide additional information, to the board. He wanted to mention also the library exhibit, which we mentioned in the previous meeting. For the newspaper, 200-year-old. So he did that, did a good presentation, of course, for that. Then the next item was water supply and sewer ordinance. And it was a first reading, and of course that was approved. Now it looks like, down the line, that you're going to see sewer cost increase by between 8 and 12%, in the township.
That's pretty substantial.
Yeah, because there's equipment that's got to be updated and so forth, which is going to make that reflection. But we'll talk maybe a little bit more about that as we move down the line.
Apply right across the board, right?
It will. Yep. Fire department, Pete Schultz mentioned a couple things, and one was recovery cost. You know what recovery costs are? We
I'm
talked
about
about
to
those.
find
Okay. We talked about that with Addison Township and some of the others. And that's costs from the ambulance runs and those kind of things, and they actually collect this usually from insurance companies and that kind of thing. They
So
just change the
it
rates.
amounts to a fee.
It does. It's a rate that they charge.
Okay.
And so, he just wanted people to know that had changed. He had actually a schedule of what the charges are, which unfortunately I didn't bring with me. We don't need to cover that anyway. You folks that want to know more, you can go to occtv.org and check out the trustees board meeting in Oxford Township. There's an SAD that came up. Well, you know what that is? Special Assessment District. Yes.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I can see it right at the top of your head, and I could almost see it bubbling
You
to
can
the
see
top.
the light go on.
Right. So anyway, that item came up for Cedar Lake and for Tan Lake. And I guess it's going forward. There was a chart or a map given by Curtis Wright as to all the people that paid, along the lake, because that has to be paid in advance. He did mention, or somebody mentioned Christ the King Church, because they have an awful lot of footage. How are they going to,
on
fit
Clear
into
Lake,
this
aren't
thing?
they?
Yeah, they're off from, I believe, Tan Lake, is it?
No.
Cedar Lake.
Clear Lake.
They could be, but
That's
that's
the Chain Church? Yeah.
Christ the King Church. I think it's
They're on Drainer Road, right?
you're on Drainer Road. I thought Cedar Lake, but anyway, they're part of this thing, and the thing is, they're going to select all the numbers of people that there are on the lake and divide the total amount of the cost between all those numbers, rather than saying
Based on footage?
not based on footage. So it's going to cover the whole lake, and so they felt it was a fair way to do it, because Christ the King Church owns what, 20 miles of lakefront? It's a lot, but not that much.
Are they exempt?
Exempt? Not really, from cleaning the lake.
Okay.
So I'm sure they'll participate in making this happen.
Okay.
They're a good neighbor, so, Next thing that came up was marijuana ordinance, and you do know that the state of Michigan has this thing. We're
Here
going to
we
do it
go
again,
again.
beat it to death.
Here we
You
go
do know
again.
that the village of Oxford, said no to it.
That was when they had the old ordinance.
Yep.
The old whatever state.
Well, this covered this too, and a no action or no reply, by the village, or a no reply from the township means the same as no action.
Now,
And no action to
wait
the
a
state of
minute.
Michigan.
Is a no reply saying no or not replying?
Well, that's an interesting little line there. So it means if you say no, you're not interested in.
Okay. But
Pursuing it.
it doesn't mean not replying.
No, it means
Okay.
it means the same thing as not replying.
Okay.
Think about that one for a while. But anyway, so
Twisted.
right, right. So anyway, when it all came down, the township, everybody voted against the marijuana, medical marijuana, because there's quite a process involved with that. There's distribution, there's, packaging, all kinds of stuff involved with this, and actually the location, there's about five different issues involved.
There's distribution, there's also growing.
Growing,
There's all kinds of issues.
that
with
means
it.
you got to close down your growing. Of course, you're in a different township, so.
That's right. Nothing grows in my lawn. Anyway.
I'll I'll let the police officers know exactly where you're located.
Tell them to bring their boots.
You're gonna call your wife and say, "I gotta come home right away." Okay. So anyway, Brandon Township.
I've been
Keep an
wondering
eye
about
on
your
this guy.
front
No, my lawn is fine. I have no problems with my lawn.
That's what everyone says.
Yeah, right.
That's really fine.
I'm surrounded by village council people and everything. I mean, you better stay awake, right? In your area, though, all you have is chipmunks out there.
Well, we have chipmunks.
They're all running around high. I know that.
We have chipmunks. They get along together.
They do, yes. Okay. So anyway, to his wife, he's going to be home quickly. Let me see. Emergency contacts. The fire final draft was put together for emergency contacts, and that, of course, was Jack Curtis involved in that. If you recall a while back where they had a burst in the water line,
Yeah.
and it was emergency,
Yeah.
there was no really pyramid of who to contact for that. So they actually put this together. So now they know who does what in case there's an emergency.
They know where the buck stops.
They know where the buck stops. So that was a good thing. They did hire an electrical inspector. Pat Payne is the new inspector.
How does that differ from a building inspector?
Electrical inspector, he has to come in and check all the electrical, all the boxes and everything internal to the home.
Do they both
if it's
go
a
in
remodel.
together? Do they go in together or
Well,
what?
it's a scheduled process.
Okay.
You got a building inspector who checks through the beams, the walls and so forth, make sure they're kosher. If there's enough insulation, that kind of thing.
Is there an energy inspector?
Now the electric inspector, he'll check, make sure that the outlets are proper and they have GFIs on them, where necessary.
What are they called?
Ground fault interrupters.
Oh. Those little buttons that go
Those
pop.
little buttons that go pop. Don't put your finger in there. Anyway, that's what it is. And there was a discussion somewhat about relatives being hired. I said it's no problem because down the line you can see the guy coming in, and he's going to ask for a permit. And he goes to the desk and he said, "Hi, I'm Mary Nichols." He says, "Go see John Nichols at the building department." Goes to John Nichols at the building department. He says, "How do I get the building started?" He
You'll
says,
have
"Well,
to
you
see the
hire a
firm of
contractor."
Nichols and Nichols.
His name is Fred Nichols. Talk to him.
Don't take any wooden nickels.
And they said, "Okay, well, who's going to do the actual building inspection?" "Oh, that would be John Dunn." Okay. Well, with that, we're going to move on. What's coming up?
We only have 2 meetings. On 124, our parent organization is going to meet. No, it isn't. Yes, it is.
What?
On 123.
It is or it
On
isn't?
123, our parent organization, the OACCC, will be meeting.
Okay.
On 124, it's the Oxford Village Council. And on 126, the Oxford Township Planning Commission. Not much going on.
Can't wait. This Minutes by Minute, I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kinney.
Catch you next time, right here.
See you then.